So, welcome back. You've written about fame and cultural success and how it's always partly a product of contingency and accident, and then you get these kind of feedback loops that can amplify marginal advantages and turn people into huge stars. And you have kind of looked at the Beatles through that lens. And the question I would like to explore with you is, to what extent did the Beatles just get lucky?
Well, they're really good. So if you and I and two others formed a rock group, unless the other three, including you, are incredible, we're unlikely to have Leslie Mania. So they're really, really good, but goodness wasn't sufficient. They needed a bunch of things to break. Without Brian Epstein, who knows whether they would have made it? Without a little luck early in landing a record deal, who knows whether they would have made it? They were turned down repeatedly. It's a big snowstorm in London on the night of a crucial appearance on national TV, which helped boost them a lot. And, you can think of 170 probably other things without which. So all of us, if things are going pretty well, depend on serendipity and luck for that to happen, or the particular way things are going well. And the Beatles needed luck. Taylor Swift did too. Bob Dylan for sure. Jane Austen and William Blake and John Keats, no doubt about it. Shakespeare even needed some luck. Donald Trump and Barack Obama needed luck. So it is a necessary condition for the Beatles' success that they be incredible, but it's not sufficient.
Because I have heard people say, well, there was going to be another big thing in pop around the early 60s, because there was this, big, huge market, lots of teenagers with spending power, and they weren't really being satisfied by the supply of pop music. So there's big demand, unsatisfied demand, and maybe it's not such a surprise that it has to come from outside the States, because it needs to come from somewhere where black and white music isn't so segregated. And so actually the Beatles just kind of filled in a gap that was waiting to be. And I can kind of go some way with that story, but then, yeah, it doesn't really kind of take me to. I don't feel like we get to Revolver from there. even if there could have been another British band who were huge, I don't think it would have worked out in quite the same way.
I mean, history's only run once, so we don't know what are the particular circumstances that made something possible, or without those, whether there'd be something else. So is there a counterfactual world in which there's no British invasion, as Americans sometimes call it? That sounds surprising, but we don't know. Is there a counterfactual world in which we're doing this show about the Dave Clark Five, who did unbelievably well and got super inventive and incredible, and they did their own Revolver and Sergeant Pepper's? I mean, I don't think so, but maybe. Could it have been the Kinks? Could it have been some group that we've never heard of that really didn't make it because they never got a record contract? But they would be amazing had they gotten that contract. We don't know. I find it thrilling and consistent with what we know about posthumous success. Like Connie Converse is now a posthumous success, and that's also true of John Keats, who's a posthumous success, and countless others, that something often strikes someone of amazingness that vaults them into a pantheon, which suggests that there are countless others never struck, and they don't make it into a pantheon. Maybe they gave up early. Maybe they have something in some vault somewhere that's fantastic, and someone will discover it.
Yeah. The story of Connie Converse, which you tell on liberalism, is really extraordinary, and I wish everyone should read that. But your book on this particular topic, on fame and cultural success, is called How to Be Famous. Is that right?
How to become famous.
How to become famous. Yes.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed your money back guide. So anyone who reads it who wants to be famous will be famous, or we will fund the purchase price.
Fantastic. Um, I would like to ask you about something completely different now, which is the debate about around AI and copyright, particularly around creative content of some kind. In Britain, as in America and elsewhere, there's a lot of anger about AI companies using copyrighted content, books, music, as training data. And indeed, Paul McCartney has been part of a campaign, big lobbying effort around this with our government. And it's become a big part of the wider public debate around AI. I'm really interested in it. I want to be on the side of the creative people. I want to be on the side of Paul McCartney at all times. I can't quite get my head around it. I feel slightly confused about the whole thing. The major models have taken a couple of my books, so it's in their training data. I can ask them about. I spent hours asking it to summarize my own books, but so and I would like to get paid for that. That seems right. On the other hand, it's not something I really object to in principle. And if I'm honest, it's not something that really bothers me. And I'm really interested in as a legal scholar yourself, and as someone who thinks deeply about creative industries and creativity, should it bother me, or could you help me kind of? How should I think about this?
Okay, so let's be kind of technical for starters. So if your book is reprinted by someone you don't know who uses it without your permission, that's a copyright violation. If a model has your book without your permission or the publisher's permission, and then has uses of it that would otherwise violate the copyright law, that's a copyright violation. Now, some authors, including yours truly, aren't that upset about a copyright violation. So if someone takes some pages of my How to Become Famous book and just, prints them online or as a little brochure, that wouldn't bug me so much, but it would be a copyright violation. There are lawsuits in this country where people talk with the barbaric accent I'm using now, which have been successful. So that there are companies which are either now or about to be vulnerable to big economic payments for unconsented use of copyrighted material. And under existing law, which I think is pretty good start, to use the material without payment or consent is against the law. Whether authors or publishers object, like you, there are a lot of people who won't mind. They'll say, that's great. I wrote it so it can be used. And if all the world has access to material I came up with, I didn't want no one to have access to it. But some authors will say, I wrote this and I kind of deserve to be paid. And if the law supports that, as it frequently does, then people behind the model should make a payment.
Okay, that's really helpful, because it's not like you can't ask the AIs to just reproduce the book or even a passage, as I understand it, or even a passage from the book, but they can talk to you about it, and their answers might be informed by it. So I guess there's an argument which is actually it's more like the way that an artist will take on an influence from another song or another artist. The Beatles influenced by a Motown track or whatever. That's more. You wouldn't want to be suing them every time there was an influence in one of their songs, right?
That's much less clear. So if there's, let's say, a book by John Lennon, he wrote one or two, didn't he? In my own
in my own right, yeah.
In my own right, yeah. I read that as a youngster. Suppose someone we know read that and then wrote a piece that's kind of summarized it or discussed it. There's no copyright violation there. So and even taking isolated passages that's called fair use. So we need to understand why a model's doing what people do would be more objectionable. And that's a very discussable topic. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. Okay. That was very helpful. Thank you. In that case, I don't think I'm going to be joining Paul McCartney on the barricades just yet.
No, but I agree with you that one should generally agree with Paul McCartney on
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely. Absolutely. Cass, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. And what are you working on now? I think you've always got a book in the works, so I assume.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Following Mr. McCartney and agreeing Mr. McCartney and quoting Mr. McCartney, I have a book called Animals Matter, which has
Ah,
titled The Case for a Kinder World. And Sir Paul and his daughters, Stella and Mary, who are heroes of this, all three play a role in my book, Animals Matter.
that's fascinating. Because and actually, just it makes me think that although, sorry, just referring back to our part one conversation, we were talking about whether or not the Beatles are political in some way. I mean, in a way, I mean, McCartney's been running a long political campaign there, and he's sort of won the argument. I mean, he's definitely one of the leading advocates for vegetarianism in this country, and it's much more mainstream now than it used to be.
Yeah, and let's hope. I mean, I think he's exactly right on this, and most people are kind of with him on reflection. Whether you should be vegetarian or not, I think it's a good idea, but to do what we can do to reduce cruelty to animals and suffering, that's not a hard question.
Wonderful. I look forward to Animals Matter.
Thank
Cass
you for,
Sunstein, thank you very much.
thank you. Great pleasure.